This August on Paul Manafort's home, the one the White House has insisted had nothing to do with Trump or his campaign. Well, new court filings from Robert Mueller's office confirmed today that investigators were, in fact, searching for documents related to the now infamous Trump Tower meeting. Among other things, the new filings also reveal that Manafort was interviewed twice by the FBI while he was working as a political consultant in Ukraine, years before he joined Trump's campaign. Joining us now is former U.S. Attorney Joyce Vance. Phil Rucker and Jonathan Lemire are back with us. Joyce, let me start with you and take me inside the significance of this. First of all, we get very few windows into what Bob Mueller is doing. I understand this filing is to defend the Mueller probe from Paul Manafort's attacks on its scope. But talk about the significance of this window into Mueller's interest in the Trump Tower meeting in terms of the collusion investigation and the obstruction investigation.
So the way we get this window in is that Paul Manafort has filed a motion to suppress one of the government searches, this one of a storage area that he owns, claiming that it violated the Fourth Amendment. And Mueller's team came back full force defending the legitimacy of the search. And in the course of doing that, they revealed some pieces of information, including the fact that one of the things that they were searching for was anything that Manafort had related to any of the participants into that notorious June meeting in Trump Tower. And what that does, Nicole, I think it gives us very clear confirmation that Mueller is focused on the Russian collusion aspect of this investigation. We all assume that. It seems to be a strong indication, but here we have an actual indication that they're looking for evidence about that meeting, and perhaps more importantly, about all of the participants in that meeting and their relationship with Paul Manafort. So that leaves us with that clear picture on collusion. We also know that one of the strongest bases for supporting a potential obstruction charge in this case would be if it was obstruction to defy, to prevent investigation into collusion that actually occurred. So it gives us increasing vitality there. I think the most important, most interesting thing in this whole document is a page that's redacted, where the special counsel says, we're looking into three separate types of acts that were involved here, three sort of separate boxes of conduct. And then they redact all of the specifics. So you just see first, second, third, without knowing what those three buckets of conduct are.
So let me put up for you, you mentioned the people that were involved. Let me put up for our viewers that some of the people that were involved are Don Jr., the president's son, Jared Kushner, Paul Manafort, who's been charged with facing dozens of charges at this point, and 5 other people connected to Russian lobbyists, many with ties to the Kremlin. Bob Mueller has shown no reluctance to charge people close to the president, nor has he shown any reluctance to charge people close to the Kremlin. Do you think it would be a mistake if any of the people on this list were sleeping any easier these days? It's clear, it seems from your analysis, that this is a very active part of the Mueller probe.
All of these people have to be under the lens. I think it's very difficult and in some ways dangerous to predict who Mueller might choose to indict, but certainly all of these folks are facing a heightened level of scrutiny, both for this meeting itself, in which collusion could easily have occurred, but also to see what steps they took afterwards to cover up the true purpose of that meeting.
Phil Rucker, I want to ask you about someone we don't hear from very often, Charles Kushner. Jared Kushner's father, as reported by CNN, said, I pushed Jared to do the deal for 666 Fifth Avenue, trying to take some of the heat or some of the scrutiny off his son. Seems like a normal fatherly thing to do. But is that in its own way some sort of tell that there's some concern that there's too much heat on his son?
Perhaps, Nicole. I don't know what Charles Kushner's motivation was there, but remember, the deal surrounding that building on Fifth Avenue in New York has been under a lot of scrutiny, not only in the media, of course, but by investigators, and has been a potential liability for Jared Kushner, who remains senior advisor in the White House. So clearly, the father, Charles Kushner, is taking some responsibility for that deal, even though it was executed at a time when Jared Kushner was running the Kushner Company's real estate empire.
And obviously, Jared Kushner's interactions with foreign leaders under heavy scrutiny by the Mueller probe, and we don't know if it is by other jurisdictions as well. The word I hear is that the kids have gone underground. What do you hear about what Jared and Javanka are up to?
Yeah, Jared and Javanka have definitely, Jared in particular, have kept a much lower profile in recent months, particularly since Kushner had his security clearance downgraded in the aftermath of the Rob Porter affair during that run-in with the Chief of Staff John Kelly, who put out a new memo that would not allow him to have the highest clearance any longer. I mean, there remains concern in the White House and outside among Trump allies from all of our reporting about what Kushner's exposure could be here, and that he is someone who, a lot of his a lot of those meetings during the transition and the early months of the White House, whether foreign officials were trying to leverage him with business dealings, that's certainly something that Bob Mueller would pay attention to.
All right, we have to sneak